Motoring 2008 on TSN is brought to you by the new Q horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.
You know, we've been doing this show for over 20 years. This is the first time I think I've ever began the show in a bad mood, and I've got my reasons. One, as you can see, I'm wearing a semi kind of tuxedo. Does not make me happy, although I'll have to say I am happy that the reason I'm wearing it, this is our annual 1 hour Car of the Year special. The other thing is we've changed locations for this shoot. I forgot, now I'm lost and I'm really late. And finally, why am I wearing the hat with the tuxedo? Check the haircut out. My goodness, someone called me Peanut Head. Someone else said I looked like a cop. No offense. Anyway, we're here. I know Graham's already here. He won't start the show, I'm sure, without me. I mean, he couldn't, could he? Graham!
I hear you knocking, but as they say, you can't come in. This year's 1 hour special Car of the Year show is going to be run Fletcher time, not on Diamond time. Now, as before, we've got two young ladies that are raring to go and rip the covers off our overall Car of the Year. Before we get to that point, however, we've taken all of the contenders, put them into a bunch of different categories. The category winners are then eligible to go on to be picked as our overall Car of the Year. Now, let's get things off on a fast note. This year's Best Exotic Performance Car for 2008. Take an aluminum space frame, mount a 420 horsepower V8 engine midship and equip it with a magnetic ride double wishbone suspension and you have the makings of a world-class ride. Standing still, the R8 makes a statement. Get on the gas and the riders will warp to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.5 seconds. The magical mechanical cacophony that builds with the engine's revs is the icing on a delightful cake. Crank the latest M3 to life and its bassy burble resonates with a meanness reserved for the raciest of rides. Lip the gas and the ensuing crescendo is so purposeful it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. It also speaks to the fury beneath the M3's power-domed hood. The high-revving 4-litre V8 pushes 414 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque. Stand on the gas and 100k is clipped off in just 4.8 seconds. Throw in tenacious handling and you have a sublime ride. The original Infiniti Coupe was hog-tied by its dismal interior. It just did not sit well with the rest of an exceptionally well-engineered automobile. The G37 not only earns the interior it has deserved all along, the mechanical side has been ramped up to match. The suspension is better, the braking stronger, and the 3.7-litre V6 now pushes 330 horsepower, which is enough to whisk the riders from rest to 100k in just 6.2 seconds. The winner of our exotic performance... Sorry, am I in trouble there, officer? Nice haircut.
Just get on with the show, Graham. Cut with the wisecracks, okay?
As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. The winner of our exotic performance car for 2008, and I knew it was going to win before I put it into the category, is none other than the Audi R8.
Without a doubt, Graham, one of the most exciting cars we have driven in many, many years. And I'm a Porsche fan, but Porsche should be keeping an eye on that rearview mirror. All right, we've just got started. We'll be back with more as we continue with our 1 hour Car of the Year special on TSN. We're back as motoring continues its 1 hour Car of the Year special on TSN. It's now time to join Jim Kenzie, who has dropped by with his soapbox.
Well, you know I couldn't let the hair thing completely go, Brad, and I've got one word for you: product. Now, this happens to be Pantene, but I'm sure your drugstore can help you out. Of course, I had a bit of a fashion emergency myself. I picked the tux up at the cleaners and forgot to bring my tie. But I thought, well, this is kind of a casual George Clooney sort of look. If I hadn't shaved for 3 days, you probably couldn't have told the difference. Now, a few weeks ago, we mentioned how I didn't like the new sync system in the Ford Focus. This is a Microsoft-developed deal that allows you to integrate your Bluetooth cell phone, your iPod, and all that other fancy stuff into the car's regular controls. It even has voice actuation. My concern was it enables further driver distraction. Now, we got a very thoughtful email from a viewer who said, "But Jim, the whole point of it is that it's hands-free, that you don't have to be distracted as much." Yeah, but everybody forgets. We already know that driving with a cell phone is like driving drunk. The difference, research has shown, developed right here by a University of Toronto professor, is that it doesn't make any difference whether it's handheld or hands-free. It's not the manual dexterity that's the issue, it's the mental disengagement. And particularly with cars like the Ford Focus, which appeal to younger people who are more likely to have Bluetooth phones and iPods and who have less experience on the road, they're the last people we need to have more distraction. As for text messaging, well, don't get me started.
We used to call this category our economy car. It's no longer fair to call them that because they have advanced to the point where now, even though you're buying affordably, you are getting anything but cheap quality. Let's now take a look at our 3 nominees for Best New Small Car for 2008. Some things never change. Ford had a wonderful opportunity to vault the Focus from an also-ran to a class leader had the brain trust thought to bring over the European version of this compact car. It did not, and so the Focus is likely to remain a cellar dweller for the foreseeable future, which is a pity. The reason the Saturn Astra is going to succeed is for the very same reasons the Focus falls flat. It has everything a good European car needs to compete. The better news is that GM did not tinker with a dialed-in car. The suspension is sporty, especially in the 3-door model, and it comes with unheard-of safety equipment. Standard anti-lock brakes and electronic stability control are part of the Astra 3's makeup. The SX4 is, without question, the best Suzuki to date. It's perky, peppy and right-sized. It is also surprisingly well finished, and it comes with all the desirable features bar one, the all-wheel drive system offered in the hatchback version of this sporty sedan. For this reason, it finishes a close second to Motoring's Best New Small Car of the Year, the Saturn Astra.
Despite the popularity of small cars, SUVs are still hot, although a lot of consumers are now moving towards the crossover segment, more car-like with utility. Did I hear somebody say station wagons? Either way, in this category, as we're about to see, people are willing to spend a lot of money, like over $60,000.
Mention Buick and many begin to yawn and forget what they were doing. The Enclave is going to change Buick's one foot in the grave image. It is large, luxurious and, gasp, actually has a sporty feel to its drive. The base vehicle is decent. The full Zoot CXL and its quiet ride 19-inch Michelin tyres and laminated side glass make it one of the most hushed rides on the market. It is a radical departure from the somewhat somnolent Buicks of yesteryear. The BMW X5 remains one of the most dynamic SUVs on the market. It blends power with equal measures of panache. A 350 horsepower engine, double wishbone suspension, all-wheel drive, and a very good electronic stability control system maximize the driver's enjoyment whenever out for a fast drive. The downside is that in spite of the rework, the X5 is still hog-tied by its tight 21.9 cubic foot cargo capacity. The M-Class is an indication of just how much the auto industry has changed in the past few years. The original ML was a truck rushed to market in response to the number of Benz owners that drove a Jeep during the winter. The latest version is much more refined and far from truck-like, as is witnessed by the use of a 7-speed transmission. It can also be loaded to the nines. These improvements and its overall driving demeanour make it Motoring's best new SUV or crossover over $60,000.
Don't go away. Motoring's Car of the Year special will be right back on TSN.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2008 is brought to you in part by Chevrolet Malibu Hybrid, the most affordable midsize hybrid in Canada.
Welcome back. Annie and Danielle are standing by, and it won't be long before they pull the wraps off Motoring's Car of the Year for 2008. Once again, here's Graham.
It's now time to take a look at our family car category. Now, in past years, this segment has been dominated by imports. This year, well, we've got a very pleasant surprise for you. Let's take a look at the 3 nominees for Best New Family Car. If every car GM built was as capable as the new Malibu, the world's largest automaker would be sitting mighty pretty. This car has it all. Plenty of power, at least if you go with the V6 engine, a very nice interior and the space and grace expected of a good family sedan. Honda and Toyota had better keep an eye on the rear view mirror because this car is closing in fast. The Dodge Avenger is a kind of Jekyll and Hyde car. In base form, it's a pretty passé piece. Ramp up to the RT and it becomes a very strong contender in the exceptionally tight family car category. It has power, room and creature comforts to satisfy the fussiest of buyer. The Accord is another split personality. With the 4-cylinder engine under the hood, it is decidedly staid. The V6 version, on the other hand, is fast, refined and a joy to drive. The biggest problem with the redesign is the overly complicated center stack. Cramming 40 buttons, a volume knob and an 8-way direction mouse come enter button complete with a rotary ring into a 310 by 180 millimeter chunk of the car, well, it's just not a good idea. The winner of our family car of the year is, of course, the Chevrolet Malibu. Now, this thing's had a storied history and one or two rather comical moments. A few years back, the Iraqi government ordered several thousand of these things. GM built them, and at the last minute, the order was cancelled. GM had a whole bunch of Malibus sitting in Canada they didn't know what to do with. They ended up selling them for cents on the dollar in this country. Quite a funny story.
And you know, the Malibu seems to have been everybody's car of the year for 2008. Will it be our car of the year? We'll stick around. Up now, our nominees for the best convertible of 2008.
Replacing a stylistic icon is a tricky venture. Get it wrong and the equity and goodwill in the outgoing model goes down the drain. Just ask Jaguar about its XJ. Audi's latest TT succeeds because it has better proportions and a less pug-like nose. It also comes with a delightful powertrain, a rag top that folds in just 15 seconds and a trunk that measures 13.1 cubic feet. Its most likable trait, however, is the fact that it makes the driver feel like Sir Sterling Moss whenever it's tossed through a fast corner. The Chrysler Sebring is the most affordable convertible in this category. As such, one expects it to deliver the least in terms of content and ability. Nothing could be further from the truth. It is delightfully attired, attractive, has a strong V6 engine and 6-speed transmission, as well as a stiff chassis that controls cowl shake very well. It also brings realistic room for 4 riders and their luggage. Take BMW's intoxicating twin-turbo 3-litre inline-6, marry it to a good transmission and a compliant suspension, and you have a convertible that's a delight to drive. It also boasts a very stiff chassis that banishes cowl shake. This allows the driver to enjoy the sweetness of the ride without the usual shake and shimmy. It all comes together in a package good enough that it trumps the other 2 contenders and picks up Motoring's best new convertible.
A few shows ago, we mentioned that Brad had been charged by the Metropolitan Toronto Police for flicking his high beams to warn people about an upcoming radar trap. Well, we checked the Highway Traffic Act for the province of Ontario, and not only is there no mention in there of radar patrols at all, there is nothing in there that says it's illegal to warn somebody about an upcoming radar trap. What they wrote him up for was Section 169, and that says you can't have alternating high beams. Now, alternating means, excuse me, I run out of hands here. Alternating means like this. And of course, that's what emergency vehicles do. That's not what Brad's vehicle was doing. He was doing this, which is flashing, which is perfectly legal. The reason for that law is to prevent civilian vehicles from impersonating emergency vehicles, particularly so tow truck operators can't bully their way through traffic to get to be first at the scene of a crash. Now, needless to say, we took this to court. Guess what? The prosecutor said the police officer has no evidence in this case. No evidence? Well, if he had no evidence, why did he lay the charge? It wasn't a lack of evidence, it was a lack of a law. We never broke the law. Now, I'm a big fan of the police. I mean, I wouldn't do their job for all the potash in Saskatchewan. But they have to enforce the laws that exist. Now, Brad's not alone here. A lot of people are charged with this. I don't know about other provinces, but I do know in Ontario, it is not against the law to warn somebody about a radar trap. Other provinces, well, if you get charged with this, you better check your HTA as well.
Bill Gardner is doing double duty this week. Later, we'll join him in the Quaker State Garage for his annual rant on the good, the bad, and the ugly from his perspective. But as we all know, Bill considers the pickup truck the only mode of transportation. So here's Bill with his nominees for Best Pickup of 2008.
4 of them this year, Brad. The GM T900 trucks, which is the Chev Silverado and the GMC Sierra, the Dodge Dakota, and the all-new Toyota Tundra. The GMC Sierra and Chev Silverado start life from the same T900 truck platform that GM uses for their full-size trucks. We tested the Chev Silverado. There's minor differences on the Sierra in terms of front-end sheet metal, interior, and some engine availability. Engine choices are wide, starting out with a 4.3 V6, then moving up to a 4.8 V8, a 5.3 V8, a 6-liter V8, and also a 6.6-liter diesel in some models. Our test truck had the 5.3-liter V8. The 5.3 and the 6-liter engines are both available with variable valve timing and cylinder deactivation to save fuel. These engines began life in '99 on the last generation of full-size GM trucks. The V8s have proved to be really stout engines. The Dodge Dakota got minor front-end sheet metal changes this year and some new interior pieces as well. It's still the only mid-size truck with an available V8, and the small displacement 4.7 V8 has had some major upgrades this year. Up to 302 horsepower this year and 329 foot-pound of torque, along with fuel mileage improvements to boot. A new 6-speed automatic that makes for a fantastic powertrain and a great selection if you don't need a big, hulking full-size truck. The 2008 Tundra, an all-new truck stem to stern, a couple of carryover engines and one brand new engine. Notably, the 5.7 V8 is all new this year. Lots of power, 381 horsepower, 401 foot-pounds of torque, 3 different box lengths, and several different cab configurations. Previous Tundras were slightly smaller than the big 3 domestic trucks. This one, definitely not. Our winner for 2008 Truck of the Year. Can I have the envelope, please? Sorry, it's a tailgate. And our winner is the Chevy Silverado, on the strength of way better instruments and way better fuel economy. But believe me, any one of these 4 trucks is a great pick. They're all nice trucks.
My car of the year vote wouldn't be the most exciting car like a Viper or the most pleasing car, but I would have to choose the Chevrolet Malibu just because it's the most important. I mean, this is the most competitive segment there is. Sedans have been around for 100 years. They're very well developed. Toyota Camry and Honda Accord are amazingly sophisticated vehicles, and yet finally General Motors has a car that can compete with them on an completely even footing. That makes it definitely for me car of the year.
Who's the best in class in 2008? We'll soon find out as Motoring's Car of the Year special continues here on TSN.
Welcome back. What is the best vehicle for 2008? Annie and Danielle will unveil Motoring's choice in just a few minutes. Let's now join Graham for our next category.
It's time to pick up the pace of the show once again. This time we're going to have a look at the high horsepower warriors that won't cost you an arm and a leg. Let's take a look at the nominees for our best new sports performance car of 2008. The engineers at Chrysler's Street and Racing Technology Group have produced some blinders in the past. In the Caliber SRT4, they have produced a car that offers more bang for the buck than anything on the road. The 2.4-litre turbocharged engine pushes 285 horsepower and 265 pound-feet of torque, which is enough to rocket the SRT4 to 100k in 6.3 seconds. It also remains free of the vices that usually plague high-horse front drivers. The original Mini Cooper S was a blast to drive. Dumping the supercharger and going with the turbo transforms the car. Where the old car was windy until it started to rev, the new car comes with pace from Rev 1, which makes the Cooper S deceptively quick. It actually runs to 100k in about 7.1 seconds. The downside is that it is still less than practical. It has a token back seat and next to no trunk space. Subarus have, as a rule, lived in relative obscurity. In many respects, it's because there's always been a touch of the weird or wacky. The latest version of Subaru's WRX comes in from left field and now runs with its mainstream competition. It is larger, benefits from the best all-wheel drive system available, and it comes with a potent 224 horsepower turbocharged engine. With a 0 to 100 km/h time of 6.1 seconds, the Subaru WRX picks up our sport performance car. Really is a very nice piece.
And as you mentioned earlier, Subaru really has always been bland when it comes to design and performance until the WRX came along. Interesting story this year. The president of Subaru, when going through customs, was asked, Subaru, is that Swiss or is that French? He also felt they had an identity problem. They're hoping that the Impreza Sport, which is a hot-looking car, will change that. Our next category is luxury. So, Mr. Fletcher, how do you describe luxury? For me, it's something I can't afford.
Well, it's true, I can't afford it either. But generally speaking, something that's priced between $40,000 and $80,000. When you get above 80k, you're looking at a prestige car. On that note, let's take a look at the nominees for our best new luxury car of 2008. There are two types of luxury car, those that pamper but tend to be a bit of a snooze to drive, and those that are as fast as they are opulent. The Audi S5 is just such a car. Inside you'll find all of the finery demanded, lift the hood, and the power needed to brighten a dark day. With 354 horsepower at the driver's beck and call, there is never a shortage of dig-down power. Try a 0 to 100k time of 5.2 seconds on for size. I was not a fan of the original Cadillac CTS. Its angularity was just too in your face. The latest edition softens the look without stepping back from Cadillac's art and science mandate. Likewise, the new interior bears little resemblance to the original. Gone is the cobbled-together look in favour of something very classy. Better yet is an engine befitting a luxury car, a direct-injection 3.6-litre V6 that pushes 304 horsepower. Now that's enough to whisk the riders to 100k in 7 seconds flat. If the old Mercedes 190 was the genesis of the C-Class, it did not get off to a very good start. However, with successive generations have come better cars. The latest version is easily the best to date, especially in sport guise. It has a sophisticated suspension, great handling and decent power. It also comes with a much less austere interior. The luxury is there for all to enjoy, even those relegated to the rear seat. A difficult category as all make worthy winners. In the end, motoring's best new luxury car went to the Audi S5. It blends grace with pace in an unforgettable ride.
Graham, they're never easy, but that was a tough one.
That was a very difficult category, primarily because the CTS, the Cadillac, it came that close to knocking off the S5, which is our best new luxury car.
There's Audi again. We mentioned the R8 earlier. If you're driving the S5, close your eyes, not a good idea, but you'd swear you were driving the R8, and it's twice the size and half the price. But speaking of doubling the price,
let's take a look at prestige cars for 2008. Stuffing a brawny 450 horsepower V10 into any car produces a memorable ride. The Audi S8, however, goes one further. There's a 20mm drop in the ride height, an air suspension that pumps up the handling side without giving up much in terms of comfort, oversized 20-inch tyres, keen steering, and of course Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive. It all adds up to a seriously sporty ride. With the Lexus LS, there is a car for everybody. The LS 460 is large, luxurious, and has enough power to make it an interesting drive. If technology is your bag, then the LS600HL is the right choice. Along with a hybrid powertrain that produces V12-like power while sipping its precious fuel like a V6, comes one of the most advanced crash avoidance systems offered on any car. If it's pure pampering you seek, well, then just take the optional massaging ottoman rear seat and let James worry about the traffic. The S-Class is another car with a very diverse personality. It runs from the pedestrian S450 through the opulent S600 and onto the S63 and its fire-breathing 518 horsepower V8. It will get the driver to 100k in just 4.9 seconds. Of course, if enough really is not quite enough, you can always opt for the S65. 603 horsepower, anybody? So there you have it. That was a very tough category because all cars were pretty much evenly matched. In the end, I ended up picking the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, primarily because of its very diverse portfolio. You've got the pedestrian models through the S600 to the outlandish S65. If you've got a large enough wallet, take my advice. 603 horsepower gets you to speed in an awful hurry. Watch your life and license.
You know, it's been snowing in most parts of this country every year for, I don't know, 15,000 years. But every year it seems to come as a complete surprise to a lot of people. Now, we shoot this show in the wintertime, and just this past weekend, just north of the city, there were a series of pileups that involved almost 100 cars. It was like a wrecking yard out there. I'd be interested to know what percentage of those vehicles had proper winter tires on them. I'll bet you not very many. Now, next fall, the province of Quebec will, to my knowledge, be the first province to make winter tires mandatory. The province of Ontario is thinking about it. Other provinces should too, because you know, if you have a crash in the wintertime and you don't have winter tires, you should be held liable. There are a lot of people that drive around in summer tires, and they're completely hopeless in the snow. Even the so-called all-season tires, which I prefer to call no-season tires because they're no good in the summer and they're no good in the wintertime, they really should have to pay extra. Now, even if you have winter tires, it doesn't mean you're going to avoid all crashes. There are laws of physics which have to be obeyed. But with proper winter tires, and modern winter tires are a lot better than they used to be, you at least have a fighting chance. And speaking of fighting chances, even when your car does have winter tires, and I mean all four, maybe you should take a course and learn how to drive in the winter too.
Still to come, we take the wraps off Motoring's best vehicle for the year 2008. Stay with us.
Michelin, a better way forward.
One of the highlights at the Detroit Auto Show, other than the new vehicles, is the Michelin Challenge Design Contest, in which young designers from around the world are invited to look into the future of transportation. This year, another record turnout with 272 entries from 51 different countries.
Last year, the theme was the mixture of large and small vehicles sharing the roadway, very important thing, and so young designers around the world focused on that. This year, it's just focusing on the small vehicle and making them safer. So for our jury team, we loved it because they all brought a very different sense of maybe what the urban environment is like in their area, and they designed something specific to their own experience or their context. So we love getting that kind of variety, from around the world.
The industry is facing some significant challenges right now. We have the substantial pressure on emissions and on fuel economy. These things will certainly affect the way vehicles look and the way they operate. That in turn affects tires. And we have to provide tires that will enable the vehicle designers to do what they need to do to meet the new requirements. So for us, it's a window into the future for tire design.
Among the 6 winners was Canada's Terry Wong from Vancouver.
Yes. My first inspiration is chemical bonding, in which like charges repel each other and opposite charges attract. So it's like if you have two opposite charged vehicles, so 2 or 3 cars could drive together at the same time. As a safety feature, because of light charges, when 2 cars, when they get too close together, that they will repel each other and they will have no collision between them. My second inspiration is the exterior airbag. So basically, it could take impact. First impact when there's a collision. Also, the driver doesn't have to take direct impact from the interior airbag.
And can you describe your vehicle for us?
Sure. I think it's a good opportunity for me to actually come here to see the show and also talk to other designers and also have my design reviewed by and judged by some of the industry leaders. So I'm very happy to be here.
We're now heading to the Quaker State Garage to join Bill Gardner. And this is the time of the year he likes to get a few things off his chest, and this year is no different.
You know, Brad wanted me to tee off on something for this rant, but you know it's going to be a positive rant with a little bit of negative at the start. And the little bit of negative at the start, as much as I like this Silverado and picked it for the truck of the year, where's the grab handle to get in? There's one on the passenger side. So you know what you do? You haul yourself in by the steering wheel, and if you're as big and ugly as I am, you shouldn't be doing that. Now, to GM's credit, their steering columns are pretty good. I've had a lot of them apart for various reasons over the years, and theirs is the only one stout enough to stand up to that. But there's other manufacturers that aren't like that, and I don't think you should be doing that with any piece of machinery. Anyhow, what I want to talk about this week on my rant is just how great this cylinder deactivation system that GM has on their truck. And they're not the only one to have it. Matter of fact, Dodge had it first on the Ram, on the Hemi engine a couple of years ago. But on GM's system, subtle little difference, and that's the fact that it displays right here on the instrument panel. You can put the instrument panel in a mode that will display whether it's running on 8 cylinders or 4. And what that does for you is it improves your driving habits. So you go for the V4 mode when you're cruising, and the way you go for the V4 mode is by being easy on the throttle. If you're cramming it to the gas pedal, you're running on 8 cylinders and getting not so good gas mileage. And it displays that. Your instant fuel economy is displayed on the left side of this gauge and the number of cylinders on the right. So what you do is you just glance at that every once in a while and you get to learn what driving habits make it run on 4 cylinders on a part throttle cruise. And once you figure that out and attain that, your fuel economy is way better. What a great piece of technology. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2008.
Car of the year for me would be Chevy Malibu. I just think it is such a diversion from what General Motors has shown us before. I think that in that segment you have Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, and Chevy Malibu is now going into that segment in a big way. The interior is just phenomenal. The Chevy Malibu hybrid is a mild hybrid. If you don't get the hybrid incentive, I really don't think it's worth it. It's only 2 more miles per gallon. But the Chevy Malibu itself is just so beautiful. Another one that I kind of liked was the Volkswagen Passat, but you've got my vote on Chevy Malibu first.
We've already announced our best new crossover over $60,000. It's now time to go to the heart of the market. First up, best new SUV under $35K, and that will be followed by best new crossover priced between $35,000 and $60,000. If the SUV is going to survive, hybrid technology is going to be the savior. The Ford Escape Hybrid hints at what is to be expected. The electric and gasoline sides combine to produce 155 horsepower and a 0 to 100k run of about 9 seconds, which is pretty good. However, the beauty of the Escape Hybrid is that it can run on gasoline, electricity or both, which is more than Honda's hybrids are capable of doing. The Mitsubishi Outlander is a rugged piece that blends the advantages of a car-based platform and tight handling with the versatility demanded of an SUV in a single well-appointed package. There are front and all-wheel drive models offered in 5 and 7 passenger versions, all of which are powered by a peppy 220 horsepower V6 engine. When compared to the outgoing model, the latest version represents a giant step forward, not only for the Outlander, but for Mitsubishi as a company. The Nissan Rogue is an attractive vehicle. Its swooping lines and rounded personality make it look like the son of Nissan's popular Murano. The handsome facade is made all the more appealing by its dynamic demeanour. Along with decent power comes a very good all-wheel drive system that means something designed primarily for on-road use actually does a pretty good impression of a tried-and-true off-roader. As a package, it's good enough it picks up Motoring's best new SUV under $35,000. As is becoming common in the growing crossover movement, the Infiniti EX35 makes no pretense about being an off-roader. It rides like a sedan and comes with 17-inch tyres. The combination limits the backwoods experience to the likes of a cottage driveway. The upside, however, is a crossover that handles very nicely. Unlike the more traditional SUV, the EX35 corners with very little body roll, and the response to steering input is prompt. While the Hyundai Veracruz rides on a longer, wider Santa Fe platform, it is anything but a steroided version of its smaller sibling. The credit goes to a 105mm stretch in the wheelbase. Not only does this open up the cabin appreciably, it allows for a third row seat and a cargo capacity that maxes out at 86.8 cubic feet. Throw in a 3.8-litre V6 engine, 6-speed automatic, and the Veracruz has an athletic feel that belies its crossover roots. Dynamically, the Mazda CX-9 lives up to its bold exterior look. The taut suspension limits body roll, and the response to steering input is both fast and accurate. It's a delightful package that's helped all the more by the 20-inch wheels and all-wheel drive that come with the GT model. Throw in a 273 horsepower 3.7-litre V6 and it has the poop to put 100k on the clock in a little over 8 seconds. This combination makes the Mazda CX-9 Motoring's best new crossover, priced between $35,000 and $60,000.
Now, Graham, I know it's not the first time for yours truly, but I am confused. We picked the Mazda CX-9 as crossover vehicle, yet it was selected as the North American Truck of the Year. And manufacturers keep telling you, one's a truck, one's a crossover, they're different. Again, confusion.
Yeah, I don't know what the North American Truck of the Year thinking is. As far as I'm concerned, if it's an SUV, it's designed to do two things: utility and go off-road. A crossover, its primary focus is on-road ride comfort and handling. That means they're typically car-based and come with a good all-wheel drive system.
And about that award, I didn't hear Mazda complaining that it was selected the Truck of the Year, not crossover.
That's right.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment as we continue with our 1-hour Car of the Year special on TSN.
My car of the year is the new Audi S5. I think that Audi's finally found a design language and a ride and handling package, as well as a value proposition that makes it the best and the most attractive two-door high-performance car on the market.
The best vehicle for 2008 is about to be revealed, but first here's Graham with our next category.
As a category, the cars went from almost non-existent to a very vibrant market. Let's now take a look at our nominees for Best New Sports Coupe of 2008. The Honda Accord Coupe is a blinder. It's handsome, roomy, and comes very nicely attired. However, it's the combined effects of a 268 horsepower V6, close ratio 6-speed manual box, supple suspension, and 18-inch tyres that make it such a compelling ride. Long after the bulk of the competition has given up the ghost, the Accord is still romping around fast corners with a balance that belies its front drive status. The Altima has long been one of Nissan's more popular models. The coupe builds on the legacy of the sedan. It is attractive, has plenty of power, and it handles as well as most in the class. The fact it resembles the Infiniti G37, yet can be purchased for considerably less, is its ace in the hole. From the front bumper to the back of the front door, the Volvo C30 is a delight. It's comfortable, has plenty of power, and it handles very nicely. It also comes with all the safety Volvo builds into the rest of its cars. The back half of the car, however, goes to hell in a handbasket. The hatch opening is too small, the trunk is limited, and the back seat, well, it's just not up to snuff. Motoring's best new sports performance coupe is the Honda Accord Coupe.
You know, Graham, whether it's a coupe or a sedan, for many, many years, it's hard to beat a Honda Accord.
Well, you know, as they say, you don't do 8 generations of a car without getting something right along the way, and they have done with the Accord.
That Volvo C30, though, I love the car. I love the look. I think it gives an edge to the lineup, but as you say, it did have its shortcomings.
It does have its shortcomings, unfortunately, and I think that's going to hurt Volvo in the long run. Having said that, let's take a look at our final category. Sport utilities priced between $35,000 and $60,000. The Grand Cherokee has long been a staple of the SUV brigade. The addition of the SRT8 model ramped things up to extraordinary levels. With a 6.1-litre Hemi that puts out 420 horsepower, it romps to 100k in 4.9 seconds, which outdoes anything at this end of the price ladder. Throw in a serious suspension, beefed up all-wheel drive system, and you have the ultimate sleeper. How sweet it is. The Nissan Pathfinder earns a much nicer interior and an added twist by dropping in a 5.6-litre 310 horsepower engine. This brings a 0 to 100k time of under 7 seconds and a healthy 3,181 kilogram towing capability. The downside is that the engine and its brawn has been shoehorned into a vehicle that uses an antiquated body-on-frame chassis. The net result is something that is rewarding in terms of its turn of speed, but sadly it's overly vague in the drive. The Toyota Highlander is the quintessential two-box SUV. The format is perhaps less than attractive, but in this segment, versatility and cargo capacity tend to trump all other considerations. In this regard, the Highlander is an unqualified success. It is physically larger in all key dimensions, yet the Highlander Sport does not feel at all ponderous when driven quickly. It is a package that finishes runner-up to this year's best new SUV priced between $35,000 and $60,000. That would be the Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT8.
It's coming off right after this.
When we come back, it'll be time to take the wraps off the best vehicle for the year 2008. Stay with us. It's now that time we've all been waiting for, when Annie and Danielle will finally unveil our top vehicle for the year 2008. Graham will have the winner in just a moment, but first, as usual, Jim Kenzie would like to tell us who he thinks should be the winner.
Now, nobody can quite remember exactly how many of the 21 years we've been on the air we've actually chosen a car of the year. One thing we do know is that most of the time Brad and Graham get it wrong. There have been a couple of exceptions, but it's been pretty consistent over the years. But one thing we're reasonably sure of this year, it's going to be a General Motors product. Now, we all know that GM's been in financial difficulty for most of this decade, but their products are really getting better. Last year, the North American Car and Truck of the Year were GM products. This year, 4 of the 6 finalists in that competition were GM products, and one of the cars won. This year's Motor Trend Car of the Year, Cadillac CTS, and about half of the candidates for the Canadian Car of the Year, chosen by the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada, they're GM products too. So I'm sure Graham and Brad at least are going to be in the right company. Now, for my particular way of thinking, there are 2 products that I'm kind of hedging over. One is the GMC Acadia. This is a monster crossover vehicle. It's got room for 8. It's got really nice performance, good fuel consumption, a lot of features. And when's the last time in a comparison test between domestic and Japanese vehicles, the GM product had the nicest interior? But that's the Acadia. But my choice, well, I'm going to move down the price scale a little bit because Canada is a price-sensitive market. And for style, driving dynamics, features, and value, it's got to be the Chevrolet Malibu.
Thanks for your input, Jim, but as usual, you got it wrong. I do think the Malibu is a fantastic car that's going to do wonders for General Motors. It is actually beginning to build good cars that people are actually going to want to buy. That is always a good thing for North America. I, however, picked a different car because its market significance is going to overwhelm that of the Malibu. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our 2008 car of the year, the Saturn Astra. I picked the Saturn Astra because it's going to force many other manufacturers to rethink the safety of the affordable car buyer. ABS is standard and electronic stability control is optional on the 5-door and standard on the 3-door. No need to go up a trim level, no need to buy a more expensive model. In short, safety shifts from those with deep pockets to those buying on a budget.
Well, congratulations to General Motors and the Saturn Astra, and hats off to all our nominees. You know, the automobile industry does have its ups and downs, but one thing remains constant. Each year they continue to build better cars and better trucks. Now, I know there are those that like to blame the automobile for all our environmental problems, but in fact, many car companies are actually on the leading edge of clean air technology. It's now up for governments to start looking at an infrastructure that will support alternative fuels for the future, and it's also up to you and I to start buying smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles. And with the gas prices rising, we may have no choice. And you know what? It's not a bad thing. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Motoring 2008 on TSN has been brought to you by the new Q Horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.